I have this thing where every time I'm brought into a new fictional world, I see if there's a place there that I'd like to live. If I'm going to be immersed in the surrounding environment, and if it's where my character hangs out all the time, I need to see if it's move-in ready for me. Take Minecraft villages. I'd move there in a heartbeat. The sense of community and trade relations seem amazing, and I'd feel nice and secure with an iron golem patrolling town. It would have to be in the warmer climates though, with ample supplies of trees and water. Stormwind's living conditions may not be that great, but it's the hub of the Alliance, so you'll be safe, and there's plenty of different professions to choose from. Sure, Megaton is protected by thick metal walls, but the security is lackluster. There's only one way in and one way out, and there's a nuke in the middle of town, so that would be a no from me. Fable 2's Bowerstone is iffy. It has a lot of districts, and the market area doesn't seem so bad. Lots of drop-in work and plenty of shops. Old Town, however, might be a little too dangerous. They're going through economic hardship, and most people there seem pretty miserable, so I might have to pass on that one too. For the Elderscrolls 4 Oblivion, I've thought a lot about which cities I wouldn't mind settling down in, and which ones I'd take a hard pass on. What better way to do this than to rank them number 9 all the way to number 1, and give some reasoning behind my choices. Here are my guidelines for the process. I'm not the hero of Kvatch, I'm just some dude. I won't be able to stand up against a corrupt watchman, slay mountain lions in somebody's basement, or rescue someone's gambling addict of a husband from a private island. I'll just be settling down, looking for work, earning my keep, etc. Next, the timeline for my move is the 3rd era year 433, the 26th of last seed. This is the date just before the game's loaded up for the first time. This means the Oblivion crisis hasn't begun yet. The reason I'm doing this is so I can give Kvatch a fair chance. Yes, the very next day I'm probably getting erased from Nirn, but at least I'll have maybe found a forever home to settle in. This timeline also means that the Dark Brotherhood is at max capacity in Cheydinhal. There's a serial killer on the loose north of Anvil, an Imperial guard captain is shaking down everybody in the capital, etc. Every quest is at its beginning stage, which of course will have an impact on where I'd want to move. For example, I'd hear that there's vampire activity in Bruma, but won't be allowed to follow up. Similarly, I'll be notified that Velwyn Benaris is selling a manor for dirt cheap, but can't get the rest of the scoop. This timeline of course has its cons, but also its pros. Mana Marco hasn't terrorized the Bruma Mages Guild, Anvil's chapel goers haven't been massacred, 5 people were not assassinated in Summit Mist Manor, and it's not common knowledge that a vampire is hunting the streets of the capital. Beyond those stipulations, I'm pretty easygoing. I'll just be looking at the neighborhood, the people, the types of housing, general morale, who's in charge, etc. Unlike the real world, housing costs won't be an issue. I don't know exactly which house I'd be moving into. It could be the one that's for sale in every city, or it could be a pre-owned one. We'll just say that I'm settling into every city's version of a middle-class home. I won't be doing deep dives into each city with all the facts. This is all based off of fun and gut feelings and just general knowledge. Without sounding weird and cliche, the vibe definitely matters. Some cities lose points for me purely based off of their atmosphere. I'm hoping that I don't contradict myself and stray away from the rules I've set up, but it'll probably happen. Without further ado, let's rank Oblivion's major cities by which ones I'd like to move into. Feel free to create your list with your reasons down below. Starting with number 9, and is likely what you expected, is the city of Bravil. Every single person in Bravil says plain as day that the city sucks. The houses, stores, and halls are all built from shoddy wood. It's hot, humid, and there's apparently always a foul odor in the air. There's a crack den in the middle of town, and skooma trafficking is rampant. The Count is an arrogant fool, and Ursan Locke's husband, Alaron, has recently gone missing due to a violent loan shark. These are all significant factors that easily put Bravil at the bottom, or in this case, top of the list. However, as dumb as this sounds, other than the obvious problems, Bravil is relatively unproblematic. So long as you're not borrowing money from Kurdan Grojagol or getting involved with the local skooma gangs, you really shouldn't have any issues. The problems that we see in town aren't really widespread and only affect a select few. Gilgondarin might tell you some neat stories over at the inn, including the Forlorn Watchman, and there's probably plenty of fishing to do if that's your thing. It's also not far from the capital if you ever needed to go there for whatever reason. Overall though, purely based off of the living conditions, this is my least favorite option. Moving on to number 8, which may unironically come as a shock, is Cheydinhal. To be frank, Cheydinhal was at number 9 originally, but after writing about Bravil, I had to switch the order. It honestly seems like a decent enough town. The houses here are sturdy, spacious, and cost-effective. The location is good, with it not being far from the capital. It's also by the Vallis Mountains and therefore close to Morwyn's border. It's a city that seems like it can serve a lot of people's needs. However, Ulrich Leland, the corrupt captain, is slapping everyone with unnecessary fines. It's only a matter of time before either him or the citizens get out of hand. I could be losing a lot of my money by simply existing in Cheydinhal. If I can't pay them off, then I'm gonna end up like Aldos Othrin. While that's one of the main factors, there are also the rumors being spread of the Count's late wife and her untimely demise. It's all hearsay and conjecture, but if the overseer of your town isn't of sound mind, or if there's just doubt about their leadership abilities, is that someone you really want in charge? He seems like an okay guy, but his ability to move on was pretty astounding. Finally, the last major factor for not wanting to move to Cheydinhal, and I know it's teetering the line of stage 1 information, but it's the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary or the Abandoned House. Listen, if I'm moving to a new city, exploring the area, asking questions, I'm going to be inquiring about the Abandoned House. It's either that the citizens are straight up and say that they don't quite know what goes on in there, but armed, hooded figures come and go from the well outside, or that they don't talk about Fight Club. Either way, I'm receiving information that's turning me away from the city. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The Dark Brotherhood creeps me out, plain as day. It doesn't matter that I don't have a contract on my head, or that they can reach me anywhere in Tamriel, I just don't want to be anywhere near their cult's headquarters. At number 7, I'd probably have to go with Leyawiin. In terms of weather and temperature, given its location and the surrounding area, I don't think it's far-fetched to assume that it's just as hot, humid, and bad-smelling as Bravil. It's closer to the sea, so maybe it's a tad more temperate, but it also rains a lot, which isn't very fun either. The Blackwood Company would have recently moved into town, and while their immoral business practices haven't come to light yet, the locals are already suspicious of them. Furthermore, some unemployed members of the Fighters Guild have taken it upon themselves to wreak havoc in one of the taverns. Leyawiin is also really far from the capital, and even though it's close to the sea, there isn't much of a port here. Arguably, the saddest part about this otherwise not-so-bad city is the fact that its leaders are racist. Count Morrow and Countess Alicia are pretty much discriminatory to any race that isn't Imperial. They even go as far as kidnapping and torturing new immigrants, thinking they'll receive vital information on Blackmarsh or elsewhere. Every other reason could have maybe been overlooked, but this one is just too terrifying to get over. It's unfortunate too, because other than a bad smell from Rosentia Galenis' home and too much testosterone in the Five Claws Lodge, Leyawiin seems like it's really built up. The economy seems fine, there are plenty of businesses, lots of homes to choose from, and there are no widespread quest-related issues. At number 6, I'm gonna have to go with Anvil. Anvil is a really beautiful city. It's on the coast and has a port, so traveling around the continent and even through the province shouldn't be too difficult. The weather seems warm and sunny, and the temperature is likely mid-teens to low 20s all year round. The housing here seems sturdy and spacious, and the community here seems tight-knit. The coastline, lighthouse, and highlands make for some amazing sightseeing. Unfortunately, there is some gang activity in the region. Men are getting tricked and robbed by an all-female crew. As long as I keep my head about me though, it should be fine. Velwyn Benaris would probably try and sell me his family manor. At the time, I wouldn't know what's actually happening there, so it might even work. However, I'm sure after doing some investigation, I'd notice the strange occurrences, and it'd be off-putting. There was also a recent massacre on the Serpent's Wake, which is definitely cause for concern. What's more, the crew now haunts the ship, potentially making the docks even more of a dangerous place. On the roads to the north, there's an active serial killer. A mage is executing wandering merchants not far from the Brina Cross Inn. It also seems like the Fighters Guild is quite busy here. There are mountain lions terrorizing Arvena Thalos' home. Bandits are breaking into Lel's quality merchandise, and some Bosmer ruffians are robbing the townsfolk. It's unfortunate because Anvil seems like a wonderful city, but due to some safety concerns, I don't think I can move there. At number 5, I'd go with Kvatch. Kvatch is an interesting pick for me. I wasn't quite sure where to place it, as the only time I've ever seen it, it's been in ruins. So it's hard to think of downsides for it when I don't know what the people or the political climate were like. However, there are reasons for it being higher, or in this case lower, on the list than the aforementioned cities. Its geographical location is great. It's situated right in between Anvil and Skingrad. You have semi-quick access to the port, and traveling around is much easier when you have safe points to stop at. From the stories I've heard, Kvatch was rich in culture and art, which is certainly a driving factor. It also had its own arena, which is good to know for entertainment purposes. The Gold Coast arguably might have some of the best weather and temperatures in Cheydinhal, so that's a huge plus too. Not to mention, it was the last home of St. Jub, so that's pretty wicked. Of course, if I'm diving a little bit into Kvatch's history and gauging my decision off of that, it wouldn't be fair to not talk about all of the civil unrest that's occurred. It was once filled with necromancers, it was sacked by the Cameron usurper, and only recently there was some drama with succession of the Goldwine family. So, like all cities, it has its pros and cons. If it was still standing and I got to actually experience it, it likely would have moved around on this list. At number 4, I'd have to go with the city of Bruma. To put it plainly, Bruma is cold. It seems like it never heats up and it snows way too much. Sure, I'd be uncomfortable in a hot climate, but I'd be outright miserable in a place that's always cold. I currently live somewhere that's chilly for most of the year anyways, so I think I'd like a change from that. There are also rumors of vampire activity in town, which is always a little scary. However, Reynold Draelus is currently hunting them down, so it may be safe yet. I would have also heard about Arnora Arya having her money stolen, and that's something that I'd worry about happening to me. However, Bruma has its upsides too. The Countess is a gem and seems to really care about her people. The city is close to the Chorrol Mountains, and therefore not far from Skyrim's border. Cloud Ruler Temple and the aforementioned mountain range would make for some great sightseeing. Lastly, it's really close to the capital. The roads to get there are rather convenient, and there's a shortcut near Fort Empire that puts you really close to the main gate itself. Honestly, Bruma doesn't have much going for it, but that's why it could be a great city for those looking to just settle down. The only issue is that it's always freezing cold. Otherwise, it'd be closer to the top of the list. At number 3, I'm going with Skingrad. It has a great location, right in between Kvatch and the capital. In my opinion, and for my needs, it's arguably the best placed city in the province. The Great Forest to the north, Elsewhere and a river to the south, and Kvatch to the west. The layout and design for Skingrad might be my favorite one in the game. The cobblestone look, a clear division between the north and south side of the city, and the castle is on its own separate plot of land. Apart from the town-centric Glarthur, there really aren't any city-wide problems. As long as no one helps Glarthur achieve his goals, we should be good, right? The Count, although an elusive and mysterious man, apparently takes great care of his people. The local vineyards just outside of town are famous and quite prosperous. Maybe by moving there I'll become quite the wine aficionado. The temperature and weather there is probably fine. Not as good as the Gold Coast, but not as extreme as Bravil or Bruma. Sure, the local alchemist is a little weird and has some strange habits, but what city doesn't come with its quirks? Unfortunately, some of those quirks include a house filled with hostile undead, and the surrounding area is filled with goblins, making local travel a little dangerous. Other than that though, it looks like a pretty decent place to live. At number 2, I'm gonna go with the Imperial City, the capital of Cheydinhal itself. It's the biggest of the 9 major cities and has plenty of districts to work from, live in, and explore. Security there is top notch, as that's where there are the most Imperial Legionnaires. There's plenty of entertainment, like the arena. The market district contains the greatest number of shops found in one area. There are also lots of citizens to get to know, and some of course are going to be more pleasant than others. There's a port at the waterfront, which again can take you all across the province and even the continent. The walls are high, sturdy, and strong, which makes for ample defense against invaders. The layout and design of the houses are quite nice and spacious. It's not my favorite aesthetic per se, but it's certainly up there. It'll take some time to reach them via horseback, but 5 of the major cities are accessible and practically equidistant from the capital. It also holds the Arcane University, something I'm not qualified to enter, but would be cool to try. Now, it's a little hard to gauge, as every district has its different lifestyles, but for the most part, the economy seems to be thriving. Plus, I hear the copious coin purse has some great prices on all of their wares. There, of course, are some downsides to the city life though. There's an Imperial watch captain who's shaking down innocent civilians, similar to Ulrich Leland back in Cheydinhal. There are rumors of a vampire hunting in the streets at night, making it feel unsafe to leave your house after dark. The Thieves Guild runs rampant here, with burglars breaking in and taking goods. Some don't think the faction exists, but I'd like to think that I would know better, although I don't know. The sewers below are also quite dangerous, holding goblins, bandits, and even vampires. Some of the homes have entrances leading down into the Undercity, so who's to say that my home won't be invaded by the baddies? There are aggressive pirates at the port that might try to harm me if I look at them the wrong way. There are lots of things to consider, but in my mind, the pros far outweigh the cons. The medieval city life, the protection and security, the economy, it's all worth it to me. Then finally, ranked number 1, the city that I would move to if I lived in Cyrodiil during the events of the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion, is Chorrol. Chorrol to me is the perfect haven. It's calm, it's in a nice environment, the layout is lovely, and the houses are built really nice. There's rarely any trouble in the city. In fact, all of the missions where things go south happen beyond its walls, like the Killing Fields and a shadow over Hactor. In fact, the town is so unproblematic that the Countess is directing her full, undivided attention towards finding a missing portrait. That's how little goes on here. Temperature and climate-wise, it probably experiences all 4 seasons. It's located in the Colovian Highlands, so not far from Hammerfell and not far from the Imperial City. In case you were wondering why I've been using that as a benchmark, sometimes you need to make trips into the capital, whether it's for work, pleasure, lifestyle, official summons, etc. Chorrol is basically Bruma, but without the cold temperatures. The only downside that comes to mind are a lack of water access, so no ports, rivers, lakes, etc., as well as some loan shark activity. As long as you keep your head about you though and don't borrow money, you shouldn't have to worry about Hydes' heart coming after you. I know it's a bit of a lackluster answer and explanation as to why I'd want to live here, but that's just it. I want to settle down where the climate is at least moderate, the city's secure, transportation is simple, and there's very little risk to public safety. The Imperial City comes really close to that, but I think size plays a factor, and the big city comes with less predictability and a little more buzz. So that's my ranking of Oblivion cities and the order in which I'd like to live in. I'm curious on your list, and until next time, keep on adventuring.